Welcome, guys, to another edition of New Year Black Me. I am so excited to talk with you guys today. I have gotten a new editing system and a backdrop, but I've been trying to get all of that together just to do this video, but I did not have time to get it all worked out and get the video out when I wanted to. So I'm just going to go ahead and work with the new what I have now, and we'll just do the backdrop in another video or so. So the reason why I'm coming to you today is because I'm actually concerned about what Representative Tim Scott had to say. And you may have already heard. If you haven't, now you know. It is basically, he was saying America is not a racist country. And all of that was followed up with Kamala Harris, who had her input in agreement with Tim Scott, and followed by another representative, Clyburn. So I'm going to go ahead and roll those clips so you can get a good understanding of what they were trying to say, and I'll come back with my input. And if you do like this shirt, these jeans don't fade, I will go ahead and put a description in the box so you can get you a shirt as well. So take a listen to this video, or these 3 video clips.
When America comes together, we've made tremendous progress, but powerful forces want to pull us apart. 100 years ago, kids in classrooms were taught the color of their skin was their most important characteristic. And if they looked a certain way, they were inferior. Today, kids are being taught that the color of their skin defines them again. And if they look a certain way, they're an oppressor. From colleges to corporations to our culture, people are making money and gaining power by pretending we haven't made any progress at all, by doubling down on the divisions we've worked so hard to heal. You know this stuff is wrong. Hear me clearly. America is not a racist country. It's backwards to fight discrimination with different types of discrimination. And it's wrong to try to use our painful past to dishonestly shut down debates in the present.
Senator Tim Scott said last night that America is not a racist country. Do you agree with that? And what do you make of his warning against fighting discrimination with more discrimination?
I believe that we need to address, well, first of all, no, I don't think America is a racist country, but we also do have to speak truth about the history of racism in our country and its existence today. And I applaud the president for always having the ability and the courage, frankly, to speak the truth about it. He spoke what we know from the intelligence community. One of the greatest threats to our national security is domestic terrorism, manifested by white supremacists. And so these are issues that we must confront. And it does not help to heal our country, to unify us as a people, to ignore the realities of that. And I think the president has been outstanding and a real national leader on the issue of saying, let's confront the realities and let's deal with it, knowing we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And the idea is that we want to unify the country, but not without speaking truth and requiring accountability as appropriate.
Well, I would remind all those who seem to feel that there's something different about having a country being declared a racist country and having entities within the country doing racist things. And I think that that's the problem here. A racist country would never elect Barack Obama president or Kamala Harris vice president. But will we tolerate these kind of racially tinged things that are taking place in Georgia, in Florida, and many other states? We now have 47 states that have introduced legislative activities that would in some way suppress voters. What is that about? So we should stop arguing about whether or not this is a racist country. It is not. Do we have racist things taking place in this country by various jurisdictions? Yes.
Okay, so this is my concern, because when you get people to say things like this is what makes the HR 40 bill nothing but talk, which all it is talk right now. It has nothing to do with actually giving reparations. However, we've given Native Americans reparations, Japanese, even Asian American now reparations in light of what's going on with all the hate crime, which I do agree, but I feel like just like they're receiving reparations, I do think that African Americans should receive reparations. And if you hear what I said African Americans, not just all blacks, because I think in everyone's respective country, so if they were from the Caribbean or South America, they should get reparations from those countries as well, because out of the 12 million people that came from off the continent of Africa, only 2 million went to America, and a great deal went to South America and the Caribbean. So they should receive reparations as well. But I'm in America, so we're talking about reparations for America. Now, the reason why that is concerning is because if you say that America's not a racist country, then you kind of water down what's happening in America. So let's get to it. When we say America is a racist country, we're not saying every single person in America, because there are some great people, no matter what color they are, and they do not follow the ideology of white supremacy. However, my concern here is America, the country itself, is literally derived from racism and white supremacy. I mean, America became a country, quote unquote, a country, United States of America, and July 4th, right? But what was happening on July 4th, 1776? My ancestors were still in slavery, and they were still following the ideology of white supremacy. And what is white supremacy? It does not mean all white people are racist and think that they are supreme, but it is a group of powerful people because they have the power to change the economics and change the lifestyle of others based on how they feel about Black people. And then as we can see today, how they feel about immigrants, how they feel about gay rights, because they're trying to tell people who they can and cannot marry, which that's literally a fundamental right. You're literally trying to tell people what they can and can't do, and who are they? They are not people that look like us. They are not people that look like any other people of color or minority group. They are the same group who feel that they are dominant, and that is white supremacy. And you do not have to necessarily be white to follow that ideology. I mean, look at the things that Stacey Dash has said. Look at the things that Candace Owens have said, and Larry Elderman. Like, it's just the things that people are saying, Jesse Lee Peterson. So there are a lot of people that follow that white ideology and feel that people should assimilate to what this dominant group is saying of what it is to be an American, what it is to be patriotic. So going back to the general idea of what I'm saying is America is derived from that. So let's go ahead and take a look down memory lane. First, we have slavery, and it is off of the idea that people of color in general are not not human. And before it starts with Black people, it was with Native American. They thought that they were better and they should receive the land based off of discovery. If they discovered it, it is their land, even though someone else is already on the land. And let's not forget the fact that you can't discover something that is someone's already discovered before you. But so now when they realize that Native Americans were not built for the type of labor they were trying to push on them, that free labor, they use Black Americans. Now, once slavery is coming to an end, we have here Black Code laws. So when you think about Black Code laws, it didn't last long. but it was pretty much a rebellion between the Union and the Confederate. So prior to the United States of America becoming all as one, there was the Union, which is the North, and then there was the Confederate States of America, which was typically the southern states. And if you know about how the government works, there is a separation of powers between the federal government and the states. So there are state rights, and states have the ability to make laws and things in their own country or in their own state. So Confederate States of America was almost like a country of its own, separate from the North. But whenever they lost the war and the Union won, they still felt that they wanted to grab onto a few things, and they felt that they had state rights. So even though slavery was abolished, private slavery was abolished. If you think about the 13th Amendment, there's government slavery, so to speak. So if you committed a crime, you can be punished in jail. So you would be a slave, but not through a private holder. So the government, like even today, these people are building stop signs and your signs for the back of your vehicle. They are the people sometimes when you call for your cell phone bill, they may be the one to help answer the phone. They're doing so much of the things that we're doing today, but they're just doing it for free or maybe 20 cents, something like that. So that is still slavery. If you want to know more about that, you can look at the documentary called 13. But in that, and the reason why I bring that up is because that's what Black Codes laws were doing. They were creating what they called vagrancy laws. And what that is, if like everyone didn't have the opportunity to stay on the land in which they were. Sometimes like if the owner died off or if the wife, needed to sell the land or die off, she would give that land to the slaves that were on there. So they will own that land and it would stay in their family for generation to come. Now, there were others that were pushed off the land. Now that slavery was over, they were pushed off. They had nowhere to go. So if they're homeless, they're walking around, if they had no home or no job, they would be slapped with a vagrancy law. And that means if they were loitering together all at once, 2 or 3 together, they would be imprisoned, and then they would become a slave, but to the government. And they would be like what you see now where they're pushed off on the side of the road doing things. They would be punished that way. The other one would be they would have to sign a yearly contract for labor, and that labor could not be it can't be any job. So they could not get paid a certain wage. So if I decided as a white person at that time that I wanted to, I don't like what's happening here, I'm going to pay you good money so you can make a living for your family, I would be punished. So they had what they call enticement laws. So then if I was a person who was giving money to free Black people who were just free, and I was paying good money to them, I would be slapped with some type of tax law, and that Black person would be slapped with some tax laws, and that would be somewhere between $10 to $100 depending on the state. And so they had to basically have a certain wage that they were paid. So they were paid more than that, and they would be taxed on that. Also, they could only take certain jobs. So you would have to be, if you were a man, a laborer or a sharecropper or a farmer. If you were a woman, you would have had to be a domestic worker. They had laws where they forced women to work. So if I was a wife who husband was a farmer and I wanted to stay home, I had to actually go into the house of their wives, the previous owner's wives, or any white woman, and take care of her children in her home. So I would have to be a domestic worker, and it would have to be a yearly lease. If I did not continue on that yearly lease, or I did not fulfill that lease, I would forfeit all of the money that I did make, and then I would end up in prison. So that's kind of like the laws they have now, where a lot of Black people are incarcerated. So the whole issue with Black incarceration rate, that's what was happening then. When the Black Codes laws came to an end, which lasted maybe going into 1870. When that law ended, then they created another law, which was, they adopted some of the same provisions of it, just made a few changes. And we know that as the Jim Crow law. That lasted for about a century. And 100 years is a long time. It lasted literally until the 1964 Civil Rights Bill. So you have to understand, if there's laws created, you know, to keep us down, because that whole pick yourself up by your bootstrap, no. Because if we're not if we're forced to only have certain kinds of jobs, we'd be in trouble. We had, you know, jobs or our own businesses outside of those laws that I mentioned: domestic worker, labor, farmer, anything agricultural. If we were paid more, if we couldn't own things. At the time, they couldn't really own their land. They could try to work for it, but they would be paying, of course, above market rate to get those things. If we tried to do anything to better ourselves, we'd pretty much be punished for it. So that lets you know that the things that happened at that time, so after slavery, Black Coat laws, after Black Coat laws, Jim Crow laws, all these laws, and this is centuries going on. You have to think about from 1865, the Black Coat laws, or actually 1863, they started the Black Coat laws. A lot of slaves, like in Texas, were not free until 1865. So in 1863, you had the Black Coat laws. Going all the way to the late 1860s to the early 1870s, it comes to an end, and then you have the Jim Crow laws. If you have these laws all the way to 1964, what do you think is going to happen to the people who have nothing? They have no good jobs. They have no formal education. They can't get the education they want. What do you think is going to happen to those children? And then they can't, you had redlining, so you can't go into a nice neighborhood. You're stuck in a neighborhood where everyone's trying to go for survive, and they're in survival mode. What do you think is going to happen to the children who, let's say, are born somewhere in the 1950s and 1960s? And why do I say those age groups? Because those are our parents. My parents were born in those times. So they're going to still face the same challenges that their ancestors faced in many cases. So, and those are what you call the Generation Xers, those who were born in the late 50s and the early 60s. And then you have, you know, those who were born into the 70s and 80s, which are still weren't as great. But when you get to the point of people who are born in the 1990s and 2000s, this is going to be our age group, or at least my age group, then you have to realize, what were the mindset of our parents and our grandparents? Because they're all affected by what happened in slavery. People who were trying to hold on to something that should have come to an end at the time of the Emancipation Proclamation, but they could not let go. So they held on to a lot of those things and restricting the rights of Black people. So when you try to say America is not a racist country, how dare you? Literally, there are laws that were set in place to break down Blacks in the Black family. And there are laws still today that are on the books. There's still the whole, let me see your papers, let me see where you are, where you're working, let me check your ID, where you're going, all of these things. And when you think about police, which I'll get to that in the next video, some things in regards to police and why a lot of people are not trusting police, because they've pulled from that same history and brought that in today's society. So no, every person is not racist that lives in America, but yes, America itself is a racist country. They were racist when they were here to take away from the Native Americans. They were racist when they created slavery, and they were racist when they created Black Coat laws. And let's not forget that in between that time, the Reconstruction period, which is when the Black Coat laws were going on, a lot of the people, I want to say, and that was in Mississippi, they had what they call the I think it's called the Devil's Punch Bowl, where they took a whole bunch of free people and they caged them in a certain area and let them die off. Okay. And they just left them there to die. And they wouldn't let them out of this wall area. So you can read up on that, but you have to realize everyone did not take the loss well. And when I say the loss, I mean the war. When you think about that war, that Civil War, everyone didn't take it well, so especially the South. So they believed in having their rights. And you got to think today, look at Georgia and their voting rights. The same thing that they were talking about back then, the same thing that Andrew Johnson at the time, 1863, when he became president after the assassination of Lincoln. You have to think, when he took over, he believed in state rights. He believed in state rights, voting rights, and all those things. And these are the same issues in 2021 that we're having today that they were talking about then. So how much change has happened since then in regards to the ideology of America? So yes, I'm not saying there hasn't been progress. Obviously, there wouldn't be progress. I would not be here speaking. So yes, there's progress. But just because you take a giant step forward, it does not mean that you should not be further along. You should be further along now. So like right now, we should not still be talking about this. That lets us know that we haven't gone as far as we should. So if it is a 10-mile run and we are halfway there, just because you made it halfway, it does not mean that you've made it. Okay? The fact that you say that the country is not racist, it means you're trying to put a blanket over all that happened with America and all that is still going on with America. The system is not broken. It's designed the way it was supposed to be. And when they made that design, we weren't accounted for. And they're not going to change that design. So just because you slap on a new name, just like when you think about Aunt Jemima, when you slap on a new name of the syrup, it doesn't mean that the people who work at the top of that company have changed and their mindset has changed. It does not mean that. Okay, so if you want to make a change, then you're going to have to deal with the fact that America is founded on a racist country. All of the riches of these banks and all these places are founded on the backs of slaves. Okay. JP Morgan Chase would not be where they were if it weren't for slavery. Okay. Wells Fargo would not be where they were if it weren't for slavery. A lot of the people who ancestors are making money, whether it's the Rockefellers or what, they would not be where they were if it weren't for slavery. So because of slavery and because of the laws that were in the provisions that were still in place, like Black Coat laws and Jim Crow laws, they won't be where they were. Because how can you get ahead when you're so busy tripping someone else over to get to the end? Okay? How great are you if you have to trip other people, push hurdles in their way, cheat your way? So yes, America is a racist country. Deal with it. That's how we're going to get better. If we deal with it and say America was founded on racist principles, America is founded on white supremacy, and we need to eradicate it now. There's nothing wrong with doing that. But of course, people don't want to do that. They want people to believe that we're cuckoo in the head and these are just little small sprinklets of people. Yes, on TV, you only see scattered. But imagine all the things that are not on camera. A lot of the things that people encountered. We have camera now. We have camera now. And so now you're able to see a highlight of it. But just because these are highlights, it doesn't mean that there's other people that this has not happened to that wasn't on camera. Okay, my incident wasn't on camera. My husband's incident wasn't on camera. There's a lot of people that are having issues with having to just walk being Black, talk being Black, going to work being Black, walking while Black. A lot of Karens have been out there. A lot of Beckys have been out there. A lot of these things have been out here. You're just hearing about it. So if you didn't know, you do know now that America is a racist country. But we can't overcome it. That's all I got for you. Again, if you want to get one of these shirts, take a look in the description box so you can order a shirt. It says these jeans don't fade. So if you want this shirt, there's nothing on the back. It's just on the front. but it is nice and soft. So it is very good quality. All right. See you later, and check out my next video coming up in regards to police, one of the well-known police trainers, and what he had to say in regards to training police.